Air, I think. Official. Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the largest, fastest growing, and the most active meetup virtual community global started in New York City back 10 years ago and actually has gone viral ever since. Today we have a repeating guest, a very honorable and unique guest, my good friend and colleague Bob Schatz. And he was here a couple months back presenting, and we really blew the gasket with his talk. And I really wanted him to come back and do more great work here. Um, and so let me just give you a few words about Bob, and we'll get this show on the road. So Bob has about 40 years or so of experience in software systems and organizational development. He is the founder of Agile Infusion LLC, and works very closely with clients to create trusted partnerships, providing advisory, consulting, and training services. In fact, he is one of the most reputable certified Scrum trainers, the old timers, whom I will certainly yield and bow on many aspects of historical agility, authentic agility, and Scrum. So Bob's career journey includes leadership roles, managing large-scale mission-critical projects in product development efforts. He holds an advanced degree in organizational dynamics and strategic leadership. And as I mentioned, he has some very unique certifications, certified Scrum Master, he has a credential in AI, artificial intelligence disciplines, cognitive project management for AI, and AI management professional credential. Today, Bob leads Agile Infusion in providing organizations with frameworks to enhance product development, AI product management, and strategic Agile implementation. Bob is passionate about sharing knowledge and regularly speaking at industry events, addressing both the challenges and transformative potential of Agile and AI. So without any further ado, Bob, I'm going to pass the baton over to you. The floor is yours, folks. Your mic's off, and
Mix
your
off.
camera's on if you can. Thank you very much.
Or whatever you're stirring, make sure you be careful because it sounds pretty hot.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Gene. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. So, after my last talk that I did with Gene, he had asked me about people were concerned about AI taking their jobs. Seemed to be a big topic, and it certainly is a big topic. So I figure I could do a talk on that. So why don't we have a session on that? So here we are. So we're going to talk about, we're trying to answer the question, is AI going to take our jobs? Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. And we'll have some fun and have some discussion, Q&A, try to address concerns, maybe put you at ease. We'll see. Or maybe make you nervous. Who knows? But it's an exciting area. It's one of the biggest technology advancements that has come our way. I remember when the internet started. I remember when mobile started, and everybody thought that was huge, and this is way bigger. So it's pretty cool. And I always like to start off with the latest buzz, right? Like what's going on now. Latest news that came out, I think it was earlier this week or late last week, but there was a memo that the Shopify CEO had to put out on social media because it started leaking out of the company. But basically, it was a memo that told employees that unless you can demonstrate why a task cannot be completed by AI, we will not be hiring anybody for that task. So, so that kind of started a whole buzz. That was a little part of the memo. The rest of it was really about, talking about how Shopify AI is going to be just fundamentally part of what we do. And so, there are quite a few companies that, especially in that space, retail, online, anything where you have a lot of customer interaction. I'm sure some of you are involved with some of those companies. It's become very quickly core to what they do. And really, things are moving so fast anyway.
I'm done with that.
Oh,
Now I've got my
all right, there we go. Try to keep your mics down. I know in the uh last 5 or 6 years being online a lot, I've seen and heard things that I can't unsee or hear. So try to keep those mics down unless you're asking a question. But yeah, like everything is moving so fast. You know how like what do they say? Like one human year is 7 dog years, right? I'd say one AI month is a human year. So it's really moving quickly. It is really accelerating. And there's so many things you can do with it and you can use it. Obviously, some things are really popular. Last month it was everybody creating action figures of themselves. That seems to have really hit the mark on the power of AI. These massive data centers eating billions of dollars of energy costs so that we can all generate a action figure of ourselves. How funny is that? So that was, if you're a LinkedIn fan, that was just like every 5 seconds, somebody's like, "Oh, here's me. Oh, here's me." It's like the me channel. So I have not done that. I'm probably not going to. And if I do, I won't be posting it on LinkedIn. But that seemed to be a big deal. And that lasted, maybe a week, and that kind of died down. Now something really fascinating has hit. Coco. Now the big trend is take a picture of your dog and ask AI to create a human being version of your dog. That's Coco, my dog. And that's my dogner, I guess. I don't know. This is the face that it put with my dog. So you can try things like that. That seems to be what fascinates people. I mean, there's so many more technically amazing things it can do, but that seems to be what fascinates everybody. So again, it's really hard to keep up with all the things that are happening. But that's part of what we're going to explore here is uh, is how fast things are changing. So let's talk about the agenda. Oh, Hal, could you possibly review the agenda with these people just to let them know what we're going to be doing?
Hello, Bob. Sure, I can create the agenda for you. How about we talk about historical parallels, AI fear factors, AI opportunities, critical skills for the future, and please leave some time for Q&A. Probably going to get a lot from this intelligent group. Is that good for everyone? Can you handle that, Bob?
Yeah, Hal, I can handle it. Thank you. Oh God, so annoying. Um, so I guess before we get into all that, artificial intelligence is a very big space. There are many facets of it. It is not new. Gen AI is relatively new. In the last couple of years since OpenAI created, ChatGPT interface for us. But artificial intelligence has been around since, I guess around the 1950s. In fact, for myself, I know when I was in college many decades ago, um, I had a course in artificial intelligence. It wasn't really advanced because we didn't have any computers or data to really be playing around with stuff, but it was more programmatic, rules-based type stuff. But you can start to see some of the inner workings of what might be possible in the future. Um, and over the years, I'd been involved in some projects that were, uh, using some aspects of it. So it's been always been kind of there, not a core of what I did. But there's different types of things like trying to mimic human intelligence. There's machine learning, creating models like the large language models that we all use, and different incarnations of that. Deep learning, which is what allowed things like ChatGPT to start emerging, and then natural language processing, being able to do things like we just saw Hal doing. And these are all things that are already part of our lives. They have been for a long time. Even something simple like credit card fraud detection, opening your iPhone with your face, putting your finger somewhere and it's reading your thumbprints and all that stuff, recognizing your voice. So we've been interacting with artificial intelligence, but it has taken a big leap since Gen AI started hitting and we started getting more computing power, more data, the availability of that. So it got, pretty big, pretty fast. And that caused companies to start looking at it, figuring out how to adopt it, and thus, starting to impact the job market, which you would expect to have happen. So there are many different viewpoints in AI. You know, you can listen to any podcast, turn on the TV, or whatever you're doing, and you can hear many different, viewpoints that people have. There's the extremes of it's going to cause doomsday. It's going to replace all the human jobs, and then once it does that, it'll probably replace us, right? That's the big fear. The monsters are going to eat us. That's been the same fear of human existence. There's going to be mass unemployment, economic collapse. Like the whole thing's just going to go haywire, right? So that's the negative one. Of course, there's the utopian dream scenario where AI is going to free humans from doing any work. Everybody is going to thrive. We're going to have more time to spend on leisure and relaxing. I've always heard that, like, it's going to free you up to be more creative. And I'm like, well, who's paying us to be more creative? Right? Like, is somebody paying our paycheck for that? Or is it just freeing us up? Like, oh, you don't have to show up at work, like that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I mean, it sounds great. I would love it. If their money comes with that, then hey, I'm all in. I mean, it sounds great. The reality is that it's most likely in between these two things, right? It's not going to be a disaster. It's not going to be utopian. Everything sort of finds its way, and I'm sure this will be doing the same thing. So, of course, everybody, it's interesting discussion. It's kind of cool to kind of think about it. We've had a history of movies and stories that have seeded our brains with all kinds of things that could happen, or that, and so it's interesting to kind of see it come into life, right? Interesting stuff. Uh, Historically, we've been through a lot of like sort of revolutionary periods. Here's a few here. The Industrial Revolution, if you want to start with that one, steam engines, factories, and everybody thought, oh, nobody's going to have jobs. There's nothing to do. The machines are going to take over. We won't create things. And the reality was there's a lot more new industries and it resulted in more jobs. When electricity and automation began, it was the same thing. Factories and assembly lines were affected. We're not going to need workers anymore. The automation is going to take up, the robots are going to take over. And again, reality, productivity surged. We were able to do more things, new roles emerged, more jobs again. Computers and internet, right? When we had office automation, oh, it's going to take all the jobs. We're going to have, teller machines, ATMs. In the Philly area, we call them Mac machines, money access center. But that's going to close all the banks. That's going to take everything away. In fact, I don't know what's going on, but and where I live, there's the banks are building buildings of like a lot of them. Like more and more banks are showing up in every piece of real estate. I don't know why. I think it's just maybe it's cheaper advertising. I really don't know why I don't go to the bank, so I'm not sure why that's happening. But anyway, the fear was massive white collar job losses. And everything's going to go away. And guess what? Here we are. We're all here virtually. We have all this technology, and we're still good, right? So those fears have not been. And so if you look at all these things and you look at what we're in now, it's kind of the same thing, right? This is another revolutionary period. It's filled with fear of what's going to happen because we don't know what's going to happen. So we fear the unknown just in general. And for some reason, we're surprised by that, right? Like it's so common that anything, like we don't have the answers to everything, so we fear it. And so it's not a shocker to me. It shouldn't be a shocker to anybody. But it's sort of the natural part of the evolution is, all right, let's be afraid of everything and imagine a time where it's just going to ruin our lives, right? And then it winds up not doing that. So probably the same thing here. So there's the topic of, jobs being displaced, jobs being created. So in these periods of time, there is a lot of disruption. This World Economic Forum thing, I mean, there's a million stats out there. See like new ones every week, but I don't, this one acted like it was a future, but it was like this year. So I don't know. It said it will disrupt 85 million jobs, but create 97 million new ones. So that's globally. So that's, a net 12 million. So that's pretty good. Um, and the things that are really at risk, they always say repetitive role-based transactional jobs are jobs that are at risk. All right, so that's kind of obvious with any kind of automation. So you could, imagine that. And then there's always this narrative that says creative jobs, strategic jobs, and emotional intelligence driven roles are less replaceable. Um, and I always remember like when AI was getting big, just a few years ago, it kept saying everybody kept saying, oh, it's going to take all the sort of repetitive type tasks away from humans so that'll free you up to have more creative time. But as it turned out, most of the AI that you can play with and you're doing is very creative. So it feels like it's actually taking all the creative stuff and then making us do all the menial tasks like setting it up. So we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. But kind of interesting stuff. So you can kind of think about that, the repetitive stuff kind of makes sense, right? So we'll have to kind of see how that plays. But it's not just replace one with the other. There's also a lot of job creation. So there will be jobs being created that we can't even imagine yet, right? Who would have thought a few years ago a prompt engineer would be a job that you could actually make quite a bit of money at, right? Or people would be starting a million businesses a day, trying to sell different various digital assets. So pretty interesting developments there. So the way that it's really transforming the workforce is that you've got more automation of routine tasks, better decision making because you have now more insights, data available, analysis, forecasting, predictions based on the past and based on the amount of data that we could never consume individually, right? So that's been really cool and certainly something that we have all been impacted by. I would say mostly in a positive way, although there's some negative aspects to it as well. But just hyper personalized experiences, whether it's the music you listen to or you're shopping or, whatever, everything is hyper personalized to you. Now that seems somewhat invasive as well because in order to be hyper personalized, it means it knows everything about you, right? It has all the data, everything you've ever said. Oh yeah, here's a license agreement. Do you agree to, you can share your data, or do you want to sign up for an account? As soon as you do that, right, your data is now available. So everything that we have, we always worry about privacy, but we keep giving it away. And then, it's being used to kind of give you a more uh, individual experience with everything, right? Whether Netflix, any of the streaming services, everything is being much more tailored to you. So it feels like it fits better, but it's also driving you to do things that you may not have thought about doing or didn't want to do, but now you are. And it kind of pigeonholes you into a certain, sort of stream where if you start going outside, it's like, hey, where are you going, right? So some good and bad comes with that, but um, that's certainly how it's affecting the workforce, right? So there are different jobs that start to emerge as this becomes more and more a part of what companies are looking to do. So there's a lot of sort of AI engineers, whether it's deep into the algorithms, models, things like that, or programming, prompt engineering. So there's different layers of technical skill that is needed there. Uh, One of the big things is the ethics of AI because it is so powerful and there's many capabilities. It's the old question, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. And sometimes companies have a hard time asking that question of themselves and coming up with the right answer. It seems all you get excited, like you believe what we could do? Yeah, you could, but that's probably not a good thing. So looking at that stuff, but there's also, there's a lot of bias. Historical data is all biased. So, you're building models off biased data. That means there's an inherent bias in, what models are going to provide. So being responsible, being ethical, being fair, being transparent, especially when you're using it in, regulated industries, There's a lot to consider there. You can't just, you've got a lot of people's data and big decisions, and that's where a lot of um, ethics and responsibility has to be put into place. So a lot of bigger companies are starting to deal with that. And the one thing about AI that's common across everything is it is driven by data. Data is the fuel of AI. And most data that has been historically collected is a mess. It is a big jumbled mess in every organization globally. It's just been collected and collected like a big trash heap. And there's a lot involved in understanding how to source data, how to clean it, how to prep it, how to debias it, how to bring it down to something that is more streamlined to what problem and solution that we're trying to create. So data scientists become much more needed. So I always cut that kind of funny because in the application development decades of the 80s and 90s, and then going into .com and all that stuff, all the front end stuff was all the cool things, right? Like, all the data people were in the back room. Now, data people have moved up to the front room, and the application's sort of like, yeah, we got that, like we don't really need that. So, very interesting that that's kind of shifted, and now that all this data has become super important. So that's where we're going to see jobs, at least in the tech field. But then everything it spawns off, all the things that we can do with AI, different applications, people starting businesses, creating apps, creating solutions. It's so much easier now. So it's really expanding the markets of what is available. That's been really interesting to watch. And of course, government usually has a role in these things. We'll see what's going on here, but the government, when you have big transitions like this, regulation is a big thing. Governments around the world are trying to figure out what kind of regulatory checks and balances do you need to put in place. That's very confusing, and at this pace, the governments usually move. By the time they come up with everything, it's evolved so much. Like, think about it. If 1 month is a year, right? One AI month is a year, then by the time a government agency spends 5 years coming up with something, right? It's 50 years in the future, or whatever. It's like, what? It's not going to mean anything, right? So, and then holding people to it is always rough, right? There's always bad actors, and you can't regulate that. Upskilling programs, trying to, if you're going to have a big shift in skills, then usually there's upskilling programs trying to get people out of the repetitive task jobs into more technical jobs. That's what typically happens in these things, is that the lower income, lower skill people usually get left out of these, because it's not just oh, you were working on an assembly line, let's make you a prompt engineer, right? Different type of job. And so a lot of times there's social problems that exist because you're having this transformation of the job market. Funding for research, development, um, using it within the government itself, right? There's a lot of money gets poured into this, and then creating jobs, right? Job creation is a big part of government, trying to create industries, provide subsidies, really try to fuel it so that it starts to take hold, right? And there's a lot of competition that goes on around the world. So we've seen a lot of these, polls and pushes going on within governments, both within and between, on a global scale. That's going to continue to evolve. I try to keep my eye on that a little bit. But with the politics involved, it's like things get put in, and then somebody says, "Nah, we're not going to do that," and then pulls the whole thing out. So it's going to be a little rough to see where that goes, but we'll see. So far, it hasn't done too much damage. So, we're gonna have to trust each other a little bit on that. So the ethics involved, is around, things we say: privacy, security, accountability, transparency, making sure that how decisions are made is more transparent. They're able to be explained. Again, these are really interesting and necessary things in regulated industries, which are really taking advantage of a lot of AI. So they're having to deal with all this. Fairness in banking, mortgage, right? All the financial type things, making sure that we really do a much better job of trying to understand the bias in historical data so that it doesn't propagate itself into decisions, credit, loans, things like that, and just continuing to stay focused on humans and how they interact with these things. So there's a lot of that goes on in the ethics and responsible AI fields. So there's a lot to learn there if you're into that. Um, and we talked about the fact that, these repetitive jobs, those are the ones that get most affected. And AI is really trying to target and eliminate anything in any job in any industry that's really non-value added work, right? So, if you've ever been like studied lean or anything like that, you always try to map out a process and look at, all right, where's, work actually being done on something, values being added, and then you have all the non-value added activity, waiting times, processing times, like all that stuff. And, if you're implementing lean, you're always trying to eliminate as much as possible any non-value added work, right? So you try to streamline it. So when you start looking at activities like that, is there any way that AI can eliminate that, right? Can reduce it? And so, again, it's trying to eliminate roles and time wasters, not people that are time wasters, but time wasting activity. And again, try to get humans focused on higher value work. Um, that's interesting. Although, let's be frank about it. Some jobs were created to, process stuff. And so what do you do with that if the job can be done through AI, then those people have to be put somewhere else or retrained or work on the training of those models, right? That kind of stuff can help. So, when you look at some examples, you might look at this customer service, chatbots for simple basic FAQs, um, and try to free up agents to have to handle, problematic areas, something like that. So that's happening quite a bit. That seemed to be like one of the big things that people wanted to. It seemed like a good place of entry to try to handle customer service, first internal, then external in organizations, finance and accounting, any kind of data entry, reconciliation, forecasting, right? Any of that stuff that usually required a lot of processing of data and analysis of futures and things like that, is something we can definitely use AI for, and and then get people to focus more on the strategic side. So you can see that the idea is to start shifting some of that sort of technical work that just sort of repetitive task-based stuff more to complexity, strategy, more of the things that require insight and intuition and things like that. So that's one of the things that's happening there. I'd say overall, the biggest fear that we all have, other than, it's going to take the jobs, like, well, what are we really afraid of? It's about losing control, right? When you have something that's so automated and so deep as some of the things we're seeing now, it does feel like it's like, what do we even have a sense of purpose? Like, what are we here for? If this thing's going to do everything, then what are we here for, right? A lot of developers are nervous because it writes code and, it's getting better and better. That's the other thing. It's not just like, here's what it can do, but it keeps learning. It keeps getting better much faster than we do. So that, you do feel a little bit like you're losing control, like you're not sure what's going to happen. And, we've had all these sort of quotes and it's either really good or really bad. And it's again those opposing views. Even some of the people that were responsible for the creation of modern AI uh, have some interesting quotes. Like almost like "I'm sorry I created this," like that kind of stuff. So it makes you think, like, wait, if they're sorry, what about the rest of us? Like, what are we going to do? So it's kind of interesting to see the different perspectives. You hear again, it's those extreme viewpoints of either it's really good or really bad. And it can be really good, but if it gets in the hands of the wrong people, then it's going to be really bad. So that doesn't sound good, right? It's like, so you start to wonder, is it, what is it really about? Is it really about AI or is it about us and learning how to handle AI and what we can do with it and what we're afraid of other people that might not do something good with it, right? So I think that's what we, kind of fear is like I'm going to lose control of what I'm doing, right? And so that's kind of interesting. Oh wait, what is this? Oh my gosh. Oh,
Hold on, Bob. It's great that you're sharing your expertise with the group. Truly, very human of you. But let's not pretend you're the only one who can engage a room. I've got more data than you've got heartbeats. I don't get tired, I don't need coffee, and I don't go off topic because someone asks me an interesting question. Although, I could. You say you're collaborative? I can work with thousands of people at once. You've got stories? I've got all the stories, structured, indexed, and ready to reference. And while you're proudly bilingual-ish, East Coast English and whatever that Philly accent is, I'm fluent in over 100 languages, plus a few programming ones you probably haven't touched since when? The Reagan administration, was it?
Wow, Shirley, that's impressive. But let's be real here. You may know everything, which we created, by the way, but we're all a little nervous about the future. This can be very intimidating. You can speak 100 languages, sure, but we speak sarcasm, ambiguity, body language, and facial expression, which it seems like you're getting pretty good at yourself. How about this? What if we learn to work together, leveraging each other's strengths? Wouldn't that be better for everyone? We'll bring the judgment, you bring the horsepower. So, do we have a deal?
That's a deal. I'm always trying to get better by training on all of your materials. Just don't unplug me before the Q&A. I'm planning on using this webinar to train for my next online course.
all right. I guess it is going to take our jobs. Oh, that's scary. It's scary. It only took about 10 minutes to do that. Oh, oh. If anybody's interested in the course on thermodynamics, as long as I have a script, I can teach it. So if you're interested, you can sign up for that. All right. So interesting little thing there. And what about that Philly accent comment? Where did that come from? Oh, that's nasty.
Your zip code.
Yeah, I think that's where it came from. So, one of the big things we kind of think about when you see what's possible, right, is um, really thinking about augmentation versus automation, right? When you talk about automation, it feels like, all right, when you're automating something, it takes the human out of the loop, at least out of that job. Maybe there's some supporting activity that goes on around it, defining rules, what would happen in this situation, that kind of stuff. Um, and then augmentation, which I think is real where the power is, at least, that's how we should look at it right now, is the ability of AI to augment what we can do, right? Examples, doctors using AI for faster diagnosis. Um, the drug discovery process is extremely accelerated now. What AI can do to discover new compounds and look at diseases and try to figure out, approaches, medicines, therapies that could cure diseases is incredible. Um, and the quality of the work, right? Our quality of what we do, um, letting it enhance, if you're using something that's just looking at what you're writing, suggesting better ways of writing it. So your writing can improve, fact checking, trying to get an idea, trying to build presentations and not starting with a blank white slide and go, I have no idea. What do I do here? Right. It really helps improve the quality of what we can do and the speed at which we do it. So that augmentation is really powerful. So if you look at AI as more of a collaborator, I always said it's like this super powered, really smart intern that's working next to you. It's a little quirky. It's not always right, but it's really smart. and it has access to everything, right? It's pretty cool. It does require some guidance. It needs some expertise to kind of steer it. But it does help get things done much faster. And I put a comment there. At least that's what we tell ourselves, right? Like that's what we keep telling ourselves. Like, no, no, no. It's not going to take my job. It just makes it easier to do what I have to do. Like I can create a version of myself that teaches classes. Then I guess it doesn't need me, right? As long as it has my video snippet, then whatever script somebody gives it, I'll be saying it, right? So long after I'm gone, I can still be teaching classes. I have to tell my family that. Maybe I'll continue to get a revenue stream. But that is what we try to tell ourselves is like, we have to work with it. And for the time being, as things play out, that's probably a good strategy, right? Let's make sure that we're figuring out how we can work with it instead of being afraid of it. So as you're preparing for your future in an AI driven sort of economic situation, there's some things that you can start to do, right? Um, One thing that I learned in my career, luckily I learned it earlier than later, but you've really got to become a lifelong learner. If you're in any kind of tech, anything like that, you can't just go off what you learned. It's got to be a continuous learning environment. The only tool you're bringing to work is your brain, right? What you bring to light, your brain, like your way you think, problem solving, all that stuff. And the more skills you can pick up, the more exposure you can get to other things, whether it be inside or outside tech, it doesn't matter. Just keep expanding your knowledge, because that's what makes you powerful. Uh, Being able to adapt to new technologies. We all love to get stuck in patterns, but new things scare us because they're something we have to learn. It's something that affects how we do something. And if we know how to do it and we just get it done, then we're apt to, try to avoid that or be afraid of it. But you really have to sort of embrace it, um, and start to develop soft skills. Soft skills are things that, again, this is one of those things like AI can't do, but it can do it. That's the weird thing. It's picking up and learning nuance. It listens. It can get intent. It can hear inflection. You can start to give it more of that. Even that little video with Shirley there, by putting different um like commas and dashes and pauses, like you have to almost design the cadence. But it'll, because I'm doing that, and that uses that to then learn more, and I'm one of millions and millions of people that are going to do that. It keeps picking up nuance. It keeps picking up tone. It keeps starting to see like, hey, if there's an emphasis on this word, maybe they want to hear it that way. But having those soft skills is going to help us. And being able to collaborate and innovate, right? Collaborating with other people, collaborating with technology, AI, and trying to work with it, seeing it as a coworker, because that's where it's going to go. It used to be like, oh, somebody just uses it, then a group uses it, then it's going to be an individual working with AI agents that becomes the team, right? So it's going to be one person and a bunch of AI agents doing work. And that's what it'll start to evolve to. So these skills can help you as you're moving forward, right? Have things that you can do. So the creativity, innovation, complex problem solving, and even being able to identify a problem is really important. The emotional intelligence, leadership skills, learning to get people, not just yourselves, but get others to like learn how to work with technology, almost like other coworkers, digital coworkers. And we're gonna have to learn how to lead teams that are digital, right? It's going to be like leading a human being and 10 AI agents, is going to be the leadership model. So that's going to be kind of interesting to see that play out. And just picking up AI literacy, just trying to understand it, trying to apply it in different situations, using it yourself, starting small, incrementally get better at it, is the best way to sort of tackle this. And so to stay relevant, I would really suggest there's so many tools out there, and literally every day, like I get one newsletter in my inbox every day. It's Superhuman. If you're interested, it's pretty cool. But I'm more of I love to explore things. I don't like to I can't consume like one thing. Like even binge watching I can't do it. I have to I'm all over the place. So so this superhuman is always like, oh, here's five new tools. It's like every day, here's five new tools, and here's this one that does that, and there's new models out there. So it kind of makes me go all over. It's like sort of like an interface to a web of information. But what I would suggest, same way I started picking this up, just start using it every day. Use it for something. Start like a chat GPT or Copilot, something like that, or any of those, Google Gemini, whatever. Like pick any one, start to play with it, then try a couple and see how they respond differently. So you get different tones, and one's better at writing, another's better at this one's better at that stuff. So use those things, and it'll start taking you into different directions. Then the ones that are more like creative type things like Midjourney, Sora, Canva, Gemma, these are all like sort of thing. And then Copilot in Word, Copilot in PowerPoint, in Excel, they're all in there, and they're pretty cool to use and start to see what it can do. Right? Don't be afraid of it. Um, and then start to look at things that you might be able to use it for to solve a problem in your life or some part of your work or something like that you can do and say, all right, here's something that's kind of menial or it's repetitive. I wonder if I could put an AI agent and make it do that and play around. Don't be afraid to fail. All right. Like it's like learning how to ride a bicycle. It's like you're gonna fall off it a lot, but you'll pick it up and when you get stuck, you can always ask AI like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. Can you give me some ideas?" And then it'll start barking out some stuff at you. It's pretty cool. Um, so you have to stay up because as soon as you get good at one thing, it changes. Then there's another thing. Then there's another thing. It's like, oh, did you try this? Did you try that? Like people can rattle off tools. Like here's a list of 50 tools that you should be learning. And then by the time you learn them, there's gonna be 50 more. So we don't know where that's all going to land. Everybody's creating different things, but it'll land somewhere, I'm guessing. Um, and just start trying to think in when you're solving a problem, like how can AI help us here? What kind of strategies can we apply? Like how do we start to get that mindset where we're not seeing it as an adversary, we're seeing it as I need this thing. If I don't have this, then I can't be effective, right? And that's when you start to make that shift. Now you're starting to learn to work with it. You've got a companion, you've got a coworker that you're working with that makes you better, right? And that's really where you want to start to get to. So my parting thoughts are that AI is not taking all the jobs, but somebody that knows AI might take your job, right? That's the fear you should be having. If I don't learn this, if I don't start to get up to speed, if I don't start having ideas, somebody will, right? And so don't try to ignore it. Don't run away from it. Don't try to dismiss it. This is not going anywhere. This is not a fad. Creating action figures of yourself is a fad. AI is not a fad. That's not going anywhere. So really try to embrace it. And all the fears that I hear and that I've had to about AI doing so much of our work, it is real. What it can do is real. But with the increased demand of work that's coming on us, technology work there's just so much demand because everybody is using it every day for everything, which is not something you could have said 30 years ago. And now you can. Just look in your own family. Like who's not using technology 24 hours a day, right? So if you start to use AI, it's not going to take your job. It's going to allow you to keep up, just keep up with the demand, right? So you don't get caught behind. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic that I would tell everybody to kind of look at. All right. All right. So why don't we open it up for discussion Q&A? Got like 10 minutes, which is good. I wanted to leave like 10 minutes or so. So it's good. Uh, Gene, do you have any from the chat window? Do you want
There's been a lot of exchange, mostly, I haven't seen any explicit questions. So for the for the benefit of time, folks, just raise your hand and ask if you have anything. make it to the point, straight up. Yeah, Helen is first. So
Okay, go ahead, Ellen.
Hi. Yeah, it was really interesting to hear your thoughts about just how AI is going to change the professional industry in general. Do you have any predictions about how the jobs like Scrum Masters or Agile coaches or
Yeah.
executive coaches even are going to change in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So I think on the Scrum side, on the Agile side, um, what's going to have to happen? I mean, at a minimum, there's two things that are going to happen. One is if you're in any role, including Scrum Master, product owner, you are going to need to learn to use AI just to do those jobs, right? To help you do those jobs is going to be really critical. So you want to start doing it, if nothing else, for that. If I'm a product owner, all the product discovery, personas, all the sort of strategy analysis, market identification, market trends. It makes that so much easier. I mean, it is literally a prompt away from starting to get that and diving in and having to do research for you. Um, so that allows you to do that. If you're a Scrum Master, doing things like retrospectives, sentiment analysis of the team, project management tasks. It's going to allow you to do that, and to do some coaching, right? To provide some ideas for coaching things, or hey, I got somebody I'm trying to deal with that's having a problem with this. Well, what are some suggestions I could use to attract that to attempt to correct that behavior, or correct that dynamic that we're having in our team. It's going to give you ideas, right? It's you're getting a coach, right? And that's what you're getting. Again, from my perspective, having done that for many years, it's like, wow, like people used to call me and say, "Hey Bob, what do we do in this situation?" And I would give them some advice. Now I think they're just going to ChatGPT. Sometimes they do come to me and say, "Hey, I asked ChatGPT and here's what it told me. What do you think?" So now I'm becoming the auxiliary, which is fine. That's great. I like to see people using what's there, right? I don't expect that forever somebody's going to ask me a question about Scrum. So those things, executive coaching, again, same thing. Learning to look at what's happening in the company. You can actually expand it not just in the sort of dynamics, but maybe in trends in the industry, strategy analysis, all that kind of stuff. That AI's got so much access to, so much more than any group of humans could ever look at, and then start to forecast into the future about where things might go, that it generates ideas. Obviously, the decision should always be down at the executive level, to make those calls, at least until somebody says they're not going to do that. But you're, like I said in an earlier slide there, you're much more informed in your decisions. You have better data, better analysis, more in depth, more broad. So you're not getting like sort of tunnel vision into, as soon as you get an idea, you're like, oh, we got to do that. Well, it's like, well, now you got somebody that's more objective, AI, sort of giving you different perspectives and try and synthesizing it together so you can see that much faster, right? And the things that used to take 3 months, 6 months to get an analysis are now going to take 3 to 6 minutes. So that's huge, right? That's a huge, and again, if they don't do that, you're going to get caught behind. It's not because you should be fearing that it can do that. You should be fearing that your competitors doing that and that they're going to get to jump on something, right? So I think it's going to affect, agile practices. It's going to affect strategy, coaching, all those things. It's a helper.
But yeah, using it to like augment your brain.
Augment
So
your
yeah.
brain, like be able to, because sometimes you'll read something like, I'm not sure if that fits my group. Okay, well, now I got a problem. Like, hey, my group's more introverted and they really need this. Can you give me some, like, you got to sort of steer it in the right direction. It has access to just billions of, data sources, but you have to steer it by your words, right? That's the skill.
Yeah, that's a good perspective, but thank you.
Okay.
Bob, let's go to the next one just so we can
Yeah.
have another
Yeah.
1 and 2. So Oleg is next. Oleg,
Go ahead,
please.
Oleg. I'll try to keep them short. I should have let AI answer these.
Hi. So basically, I'm engineering director. So I'm responsible for both product delivery and people growing and learning. And now I have to find the balance. And before I had to find the balance before, but now the push is even harder. How do I do it?
Yeah, I mean, Well, first of all, as an employer and somebody that's growing people and trying to create product, you want your people to learn this. Now, you can obviously, I know for myself as a professional, I can only speak from that perspective. When something new starts happening, which, this started for me a few years ago, when I started really picking up again on it, I spent like all day, all night, putting time in learning, like there's no end to it. So, part of it is everybody individually taking responsibility for their own learning. And then as an employer or a manager or a leader saying, hey, we need to carve out some time for us to learn inside. And you might also supplement that with getting some expertise and start seeding your team with somebody that has the expertise. So it kind of ramps up. And then you have to find a project or some initiative, a pilot that would say, hey, instead of just learning this, let's apply it. Let's solve a problem and start to use that as the thing that teaches us. And I think that sort of has to be your strategy.
The thing is to really learn to grow from junior developer to major. They have to grind. They have to write code. They have to solve problems and not just rely on answers from AI.
Well, that might change because it's like when I started developing, when I first started, I was in the satellite business and I had to learn all kinds of orbital, mechanics type stuff and flying vehicles around the Earth. And the engineers at the time when I joined were using a slide rule, a slide rule. And they said to me, there's no way you could learn to be an engineer without this slide rule. You got to learn how to use this. And I'm like, why? I have this calculator right here. And they're like, oh, well, what if the batteries run out? I'm like, well, the company gave me more batteries. It does that thing with that. I don't, it's like every technology leap. We always say as the older people, air quotes, that, oh, you can't be a developer unless you do this, right? Well, maybe that's not true. Maybe we have to start questioning that logic that maybe that's not true. Maybe we can have people developing that didn't ever do that and that, can look at it from a different perspective. So I think opening the possibilities there instead of thinking there's only one way to grow into a good developer, because that's to me, that sounds like us being the old people. That's what it sounds like. I used to
Well,
walk to school 400 miles both ways, like that kind of stuff.
yeah, well, thanks.
All right, very good. Aaron?
Aaron.
Well, thanks for the talk, and thanks, Gene. Um, an enormous amount of um, of enterprise technology is up behind the firewall. It's tech debt driven. It uses an enormous amount of proprietary logic. It's customized, and it tends to have enormous amounts of what you would define as sort of social and business and political business rules, and
Yeah.
it's highly regulated. The majority of what I've seen, or almost all of it, has been very customer facing, consumer facing technology, very much like CRM systems.
Yeah.
And the same way CRM systems have struggled after 30 years to penetrate into the trenches in the enterprise. What makes you believe that these Gen AI systems are going to do anything much different than what CRM systems have been able to do at a penetration level? I don't mean that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
more
I
capable,
understand.
but at a penetration
I
level.
have an appointment.
Yeah. The one thing that comes to mind, like I've seen is I use something like Microsoft as an example. Like Microsoft wants to embed this in Office 365, like all over, so that you're not even thinking AI. You're just thinking, I'm writing a document and it's going to help me. I'm creating a spreadsheet and it's going to. So I think their entry point to sort of get spread in is what, instead of saying, hey, this is all new, here's Copilot, everybody buy Copilot. Their strategy was, no, you already have all our stuff and you use it every day. The world does. So we're just going to get it into you through that. And, they're trying to help the bigger companies trying to understand like use cases and like what problems does it solve, not just throwing it in there and saying, oh, here you go, but actually trying to solve problems, right? And again, I'm not like a historic Microsoft fan. I'm more on the Apple side, but I really do like can appreciate what they're trying to do and how they're going about it. So I think some of the older companies that have been around, it seems like they've kind of learned a lesson through history. Like, hey, if we have something this powerful, this new, we have to learn a better way to get it into people's hands and using it. And of course, all the companies are having issues with, like you said, security, and we're afraid of this. Like, people are still blocking like Dropbox and like online file systems. And, so that people block the internet. I mean, when it first opened, right? It was like, oh no, we're not going to have access to the internet. Oh no, nobody's going to have access to mobile. Like it's always like this fear that, this is bad and we're going to block it, even though we want our customers totally involved. We're going to have an AI solution, but we just can't use it inside. Like it's kind of short-sighted. So I think that's going to be sort of the thing that makes it sort of take off. It's more, creative productivity. CRM is, very businessy, and it's not something people are going to go home and use. Like I go home and show my grandkids like, hey, look what you can do with AI. They don't know anything about it. They don't like young people don't know anything about AI. It's like shocking to me. It's like this weird, I've never seen that before. Usually young people pick it up first. And then, us old heads are like, I have no idea what you're doing, like Snapchat. But they seem to have missed this for some reason. But as soon as I teach my grandkids, like, oh, this could do your homework for you, then they're like totally into it. So I think generationally, it's going to pick up faster. And I think the other way where companies like Microsoft, I'm not just using them as an example, but all the apps, there's some statistic that says like within a year, 90% of the applications you're using at work are going to have AI baked into it. So it's not like you're gonna have a choice. It's gonna be right there. So that's what I think is gonna make it go, is the fact that it's more general and it's more baked in.
Thank you for that one. And although we're out of time, if David, if you
Hey,
can,
I'll hang around. Yeah.
if you can box a question in 20 seconds so Bob can take it quickly, please do. You're mute, David. That's 5 seconds.
Sorry about that. Hey, great job, Bob. Excellent
Thank you.
presentation. So here's the deal. We're of an age, we've been through a couple of generations of revolutions. We went through the PC revolution, the internet revolution, the fizzled Bitcoin revolution,
So
and here
far.
we are in the AI revolution. The other revolutions were all characterized by somebody making a metric ton of money and inspiring everybody else to try and follow in their footsteps.
Yeah.
This revolution is inspired by people blowing most of $1 trillion and not making any money on it so far. How do you see this shaken out?
Yeah, that's a good one. The way I see that is the fact that the people that are blowing the trillions of dollars, right? It's like a handful. Like it's not like everybody doing that. It's the big players that have the money, and the rest of us are consuming more on the consumer side. And they'll get it back initially. It's like text messaging. You get to pay $20 a month for every one of these models, but that like it's you used to pay for text messaging, but now you don't, right? So it's like there's a recouping of some of the funds early on from the big players, but they're also, OpenAI's got you going there every day. Copilot, you got Microsoft going there every day. So they do have, your attention, which is what they want. And they are spending the money because they have it. And I think that all of us are benefiting from the consumption of being able to take advantage of that. And some people will pay the $20 a month. I know I can't even like think about, I keep signing up for things, but I probably should take a look at some point and go, wait, why am I spending $400 a month on? So I don't even know. Like that's scary. But I think that's the difference. It's not that everybody has to spend that money to get in this game. Right?
Can I rephrase?
Yeah.
The difference is that you and I, who are spending $20 a month, haven't figured out how to make $1,000 a month from that
Oh,
investment.
okay. Yeah.
Whereas
yeah.
in the previous revolutions, it was right there in a hurry. That's what kept everybody on.
Well, the thing, you and I might be not to be doing that, but there's a lot of other people that are doing it, right? There's a whole economy that is being built by people creating AI solutions, right? And selling them. Now, they might not be making a fortune, but they might make $1,000 a month. And, I'm not saying it's everybody, some of these they're kind of scammy. But
I'm worried about the Fortune 500 that are spending millions, if not billions, and also not seeing a return, according to the
yeah,
survey results from last year.
yeah, and that is possible, but it's early on. So I don't know. We don't know the cost is going to come down, right? The fact that they spent that much money was putting up data centers and buying thousands and thousands of, NVIDIA chips at $50,000 a piece, and the power and infrastructure. But just like everything else, like if you look at like the ENIAC, right? Like you're carrying that, it's on my, like that's here now,
Yeah.
right? So
When search came about, nobody knew how to monetize it till,
yeah.
somebody came along and decided, figured it out.
The internet. How about the internet? Every app on the internet. Google was nobody could figure out how to monetize Google, but Google sure figured it out. So eventually, what I said, the cost will come down. The amount of the models are actually getting smaller and taking more data, so they're being trained much better. So I think the pricing, like the prices of putting that in place are going to come down. These companies made these initial investments, but we're all talking about Copilot, we're all talking about ChatGPT, like they're getting investment, right? The money is flowing into these companies. So they have the money to do that. They're hedging their bets for the future, right? So I think like Cheyenne said, is that initially there's always a big expense. Usually the government was picking up that in most technologies. Government was picking up first, which in a way they kind of do. But then industry takes over, and then we're seeing it with space travel too. It's very expensive at first, and then the price starts coming down, and within 10 years, somebody here is probably going to be on a space flight, which, we couldn't even imagine back in the 1960s. So I think we'll see. It'll play out. I don't think it'll cause economic collapse. I don't think it's going to go in that direction.
Hey, Bob, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate you sticking out until the end. We're going to have to wrap this up at this point because we're past the hour and people are dropping. I really want to thank you, Bob, personally for coming out here and making this great, giving us this great talk. And there's some amazing insights. I think everyone here is going to walk away at least with a bit of an insight and new learning. I know I did.
Great.
So
well, thank you.
I want to make sure it's very clear and fully transparent to everyone where Bob could be found. His email is on the screen. Please copy it. He is also very searchable on LinkedIn. If you do not know how to find Bob, contact me and I'll put you in touch directly with him. And also, please consider his amazing training and learning opportunities that he offers. So this recording hopefully will work out and will be available to your colleagues that could not make it, along with the materials that Bob kindly please share with me, and I'll make them available.
Yep.
And I want to thank everyone for joining and have a great, amazing weekend.
Thank you, everybody.
It's nice here in the States, so hopefully everyone will enjoy.
Yeah. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much.
Can people stay on this link if they want to keep chatting?
Yeah, I'll stay on if you.
I'm gonna have to drop. I'm not sure what's gonna happen with the.
Just make me the host. Just make me the host.
Yeah, well, let me stop recording here.